वेलकम बैक टू आवर चैनल बी क्यूरियस। हम पढ़ने जा रहे हैं अब सेकेंडरी लिम्फोइड ऑर्गन्स वेयर द इम्यून रिस्पॉन्स इज इनिशिएटेड। Just described lymphocytes and myeloid cells develop to maturity in the primary lymphoid system. T lymphocytes in the thymus and B cells, monocytes, dendritic cells, and granulocytes in the bone marrow. However, they encounter antigen and initiate an immune response in the microenvironment of secondary lymphoid organs. Secondary lymphoid organs are distributed throughout the body and share some anatomical features. Lymph nodes and the spleen are the most commonly organized of the secondary lymphoid organs and are compartmentalized from the rest of the body by fibrous capsule. A somewhat less organized system of a secondary lymphoid system, collectively referred to as mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue, is found associated with the lining of multiple organ systems including the gastrointestinal and respiratory tracts. Malt includes tonsils, Peyer's patches, and the appendix, as well as numerous lymphoid follicles within the lamina propria of the intestines and in the mucous membranes lining the upper airway, bronchi, and genitourinary tract. Although secondary lymphoid organs vary in their location and degree of organization, they share the key features. All SLOs include anatomically distinct regions of T cell and B cell activity, and all develop lymphoid follicles, which are highly organized microenvironments that are responsible for the development and selection of B cells that produce high affinity antibodies. Lymphoid organs are connected to each other and to infected tissue by two different circulatory systems, blood and lymphatics. The immune cells are the most mobile cell in the body and use two different systems to traffic through tissues, the blood system and the lymphatic tissue system. The blood has access to virtually every organ and tissue and is lined by endothelium cells that are very responsive to inflammatory signals. Hematopoietic cells are transit through the blood cell away from the heart via active pumping networks and back to the heart via passive valve-based system veins within minutes. Most lymphocytes enter a secondary lymphoid organ via specialized blood cells and will leave via the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is a network of thin walled vessels that play a major role in immune cell trafficking, including the travel of antigen and antigen-presenting cells to secondary lymphoid organs and the exit of lymphocytes from lymph nodes. Lymph vessels are filled with a protein-rich fluid. Lymph derived from the fluid component of the blood plasma that seeps through the thin walls of capillaries into the surrounding tissue. In an adult, depending on size and activity, shape, age can add up to 2.9 liters or more during a 24-hour period. The fluid called interstitial fluid permeates all tissue and bathes all cells. If this fluid were not returned to the circulation, the tissue would swell, causing edema that would eventually become life-threatening. We are not afflicted with some such catastrophic edema because much of the fluid is returned to the blood through the wall of venules. The remainder of the interstitial fluid enter the dedicated network of primary lymphatic vessels. The walls of the primary vessels consist of a single layer of loosely proposed endothelial cells. The porous architecture of the primary vessels allow fluids and even cells to enter the lymphatic network. Within these vessels, the fluid, now called lymph, flows into a series of progressively larger collecting vessels called lymphatic vessels. All cells and fluid circulating in the lymph are ultimately returned to the bloodstream system. The large lymphatic vessel, the thoracic duct, empties into the left subclavian vein. It collects lymph from all the body except the right arm and right side of the head. Lymph from these areas is collected into the right lymphatic duct, which drains into the right subclavian vein. By returning fluid lost from the blood, the lymphatic system ensures steady state levels of fluid within the circulatory system. The heart does not pump the lymph through the lymphatic system. Instead, the low pressure flow of lymph is achieved by the movements of the surrounding muscles. Therefore, activity enhances lymph circulation. Importantly, a series of one-way valves along the lymphatic vessels ensure that lymph flow is in only one direction. When a foreign antigen gains in entrance to the tissue, it is picked up by the lymphatic system, which drain all the tissue of the body and is carried to various organized lymphoid tissues such as the lymph nodes, which trap the foreign antigen presenting cells that engulf and process the antigen. Also can gain access to lymph. In fact, as lymph passes from the tissue to lymphatic vessels, it becomes progressively enriched in specific leukocytes, including lymphocytes, dendritic cells, and macrophages. Thus, the lymphatic system also serves as a means of transporting white blood cells and antigen from the connective tissue to organized lymphoid tissues, where the lymphocytes can interact with the trapped antigen and also undergo activation. Most secondary lymphoid tissue are situated along the vessels of the lymphatic system. The spleen is an exceptional exception and is served only by blood vessels. All immune cells that traffic through tissues, blood, and lymph nodes are guided by small molecules known as chemokines. These proteins are secreted by stromal cells, antigen presenting cell, lymph lymphocytes, granulocytes, and form gradient that act as attractants and guidance for other immune cells, which express an equally diverse set of receptors for these chemokines. The interaction between specific chemokine and cell expressing specific chemokine receptors allows for a highly refined organization of immune cell movements. The lymph node is a highly specialized secondary lymphoid organ. The lymph node is highly specialized secondary lymphoid organs. Lymph nodes are the most specialized SLOs. Unlike the spleen, which also regulate red blood cell flow and fat lymph node are fully committed to regulating an immune response. They are encapsulated bean-shaped structures that include networks of stromal cells packed with lymphocytes, macrophages, and dendritic cells. Connected to both blood vessels and lymphatic vessels, lymph nodes are the first organized lymphoid structure to counter antigen that enter the tissue spaces. The lymph node provides ideal microenvironments of encounters between antigen and lymphocytes and productive organized cellular and humoral immune responses. Structurally, a lymph node can be divided into three roughly concentric regions: cortex, paracortex, and medulla, each of which supports a distinct microenvironment. The outermost layer, the cortex, contains lymphocytes, macrophages, and follicular dendritic cells arranged in follicles. Beneath the cortex is the paracortex, which is populated largely by T lymphocytes and also contains dendritic cells that migrated from tissue to the node. The medulla is the innermost layer and the site where lymphocytes exit the lymph node through the outgoing lymphatics. It is more sparsely populated with the lymphoid lineage cells, which include plasma cells that are actively secreting antibody molecules. Antigen travels from infected tissue to the cortex of the lymph node via the incoming lymphatic vessels, which pierce the capsule of a lymph node at numerous sites and empty lymph into the subcapsular sinus. It enters either in particulate form or in processed, and it enters presented as peptides on the surface of migrating antigen-presenting cell. Particulate antigen can be trapped by president antigen-presenting cells in the subcapsular sinus or cortex, and it can be passed to other antigen-presenting cells, including B lymphocytes. Alternately, particulate antigen can be processed and presented as peptide MHC complexes on cell surface of resident dendritic cells that are already in the T cell rich paracortex. T cell in the lymph node. It takes every naive T lymphocyte about 16 to 24 hours to browse all the MHC peptide combinations represented by the antigen-presenting cells in a single lymph node. Naive lymphocytes enter the cortex of the lymph node by passing between the specialized endothelial cells of high endothelial venules, so called because they are lined with unusually tall endothelial cells that give them a thickened appearance. Once naive T cells enter the lymph node, they browse MHC peptide antigen complex on the surface of the dendritic cell present in paracortex. The paracortex is traversed by a web of processes that arise from stomatal cells called fibroblast reticular cells (FRCs). This network is referred to as the fibroblast reticular cell conduit system and guides T cell movements via associated adhesion molecules and chemokines. Antigen-presenting cells also appear to wrap themselves around the conduit, nodes, giving circulating T cell ample opportunity to browse their surfaces as they are guided down the network. The presence of this specialized network elegantly enhances the probability that T cell will meet their specific MHC peptide combination. T cell that browse the lymph node but do not bind MHC peptide combinations exit not via the blood but via the efferent lymphatics in the medulla of the lymph node. T cells whose TCRs do bind to an MHC peptide complex on an antigen presenting cell that they encounter in the lymph node will stop migrating and take up residence in the node for several days. Here it will proliferate and depending on cues from the antigen presenting cell itself, its progeny will differentiate into effector cells with a variety of functions. CD8 plus T cells gain the ability to kill target cells. CD4 plus T cell can differentiate into several different kinds of effector cells, including those that can further activate macrophages, CD8 plus T cells, and T B cells. B cells in the lymph node. The lymph node is also the site where B cells are activated and differentiate into high affinity antibody secreting plasma cells. B cell activation requires both antigen engagement by the B cell receptors BCR and direct contact with an activated CD4 plus Th cell. Both events are facilitated by the anatomy of the lymph node. Like T cells, B cells circulate through the blood and lymph and visit the lymph node on a daily basis. Entering via the HEV, they respond to specific signals and chemokines that draw them not to the paracortex but to the lymph node follicle. Although they may initially take advantage of the FRCC for guidance, but uh, ultimately depend upon follicular dendritic cells FDCs for guidance. FDCs are centrally important in maintaining follicular and germinal center structure and presenting antigen to differentiating B cells. B cells differ from T cells in that their receptors can recognize free antigen. A B cell will typically meet its antigen in the follicle. If its PCR binding binds to antigen, the B cell becomes partially activated and engulfs and processes that antigen. As mentioned, our B cell in fact are specialized antigen presenting cells that present proceeded peptide MHC complexes on the surface of CD4 plus Th cells. Recent data show that B cells that have successfully engaged and proceed antigen change their migration patterns and move to the T cell reach a paracortex where they increase their chances of encountering an activated CD4 plus Th cell that will recognize the MHC antigen complex they present. When they successfully engage this Ts cell, they maintain contact for a number of hours, becoming fully activated and receiving signals that induce B cell proliferation. Some activated B cells differentiate directly into an antibody producing cells, plasma cell, but others re-enter the follicles to establish a germinal center. A follicle that develops a germinal center is sometimes referred to as a secondary follicle. A follicle without a germinal center is sometimes referred to as primary follicle. Germinal centers are remarkable substructures that facilitate The generation of B cells with increased receptor affinities in the germinal center, an antigen-specific B cell clone will proliferate and undergo somatic hypermutation of the genes coding for their antigen receptors. Those receptors that retain the ability to bind antigen with the highest affinity survive and differentiate into plasma cells that travel to the medulla of the lymph node. Some will stay and release antibodies into the bloodstream. Others will exist through the efferent lymphatic and take up residence in the bone marrow, where they will continue to release antibodies into circulation. The initial activation of B cells and establishment of the germinal center take place within 4 to 7 days of the initial infection, but germinal centers remain active for 3 weeks or more. Lymph nodes swell visibly and sometimes painfully, particularly during those first few days after infection. This swelling is due both to an increase in the number of lymphocytes induced to migrate into the node as well as the proliferation of antigen-specific T and B lymphocytes within the lobe. The generation of memory T and B cell in the lymph node. The integrations between Th cells and APCs and between activated Th cells and activated B cells results not only in the proliferation of antigen-specific lymphocytes and their functional differentiation, but also in the generation of memory T and B cells. Memory T and B cells can take up residence in secondary lymphoid tissue or can exit the lymph node and travel to and among tissues that first encountered the pathogen. Memory T cells that reside in secondary lymphoid organs are referred to as central memory cells and are distinct in phenotype and functional potential from effector memory T cells that circulate among tissues. Memory cell phenotype, local and activation requirements are an active area of investigation, and the spleen organizes the immune response against blood-borne pathogens. The spleen is situated high in the left side of the abdomen cavity, is a large ovoid secondary lymphoid organ that play a major role in mounting immune response to a antigen in the bloodstream, whereas lymph nodes are specialized for encounters between lymphocytes and antigen drained from local tissues. The spleen specialized in filtering blood and trapping blood-borne antigens. Thus, it is particularly important in the response to systematic infections. Unlike the lymph nodes, the spleen is not supplied by lymphatic vessels. Instead, blood-borne antigens and lymphocytes are carried into the spleen through the splenic artery and out via the splenic vein. Experiments with radioactively labeled lymphocytes show that more circulating lymphocytes pass daily through the spleen than through all the lymph nodes combined. The spleen is surrounded by a capsule from which a number of projections trabeculae extend, providing structural support. Two main microenvironmental compartments can be distinguished in splenic tissue: the red pulp and white pulp, which are separated by specialized region called the marginal zone. The splenic red pulp consists of a network of sinusoid populated by red blood cells, macrophages, and lymphocytes. It is the site where old and defective red blood cells are destroyed and removed. Many of the macrophages within the red pulp contain engulfed red blood cells or iron-containing pigments from degraded hemoglobin. It is also the site where pathogens first gain access to the lymphoid-rich regions of the spleen known as the white pulp. The splenic white pulp surrounds the branches of the splenic artery and consists of the periarteriolar lymphoid sheath populated by T lymphocytes as well as T cell follicles. As in lymph nodes, germinal centers are generated within these follicles during an immune response. The marginal zone which borders the white pulp is populated by unique and specialized macrophages and B cells, which are the first line of defense against certain blood-borne pathogens. Blood-borne antigens and lymphocytes enter the spleen through the splenic artery and interact first with the cells at the marginal zone. In the marginal zone, antigen is trapped and processed by dendritic cells, which travel to the PAL's specialized resident marginal zone. B cells also bind antigen via complement receptors and convey it to the follicles. Migrating B and T lymphocytes in the blood enter sinuses in the marginal zone and migrate to the follicles and the pulse respectively. The events that initiate the adaptive immune response in the spleen are analogous to those that occur in the lymph nodes. Briefly, circulating naive B cells encounter antigen in the follicles, and circulating naive CD8 plus and CD4 plus T cells meet antigen as MHC peptide complexes on the surface of dendritic cells in the T cell zone. PALS. Once activated, CD4 plus T cells then provide help to B cells and CD8 plus T cells that have also encountered antigen. Some activated B cells together with some Th cells migrate back into follicles and generate germinal centers. It is unclear whether a reticular network operates as prominently within the spleen as it does in the lymph node. However, given that the T cells, dendritic cells, and B cells find a way to interact efficiently within the spleen to initiate an immune response, it would not be surprising if a similar conduit system were present. Although animal can lead a relatively healthy life without a spleen, its loss does have consequences in children, in particular splenectomy. The surgery removal of a spleen can lead to overwhelming post-splenectomy infection (OPSI) syndrome, characterized by systematic bacterial infections, sepsis caused by primarily Streptococcus pneumoniae, Neisseria mentis, and Haemophilus influenzae. Although fewer adverse effects are experienced by adults, splenectomy can still lead to an increased vulnerability to blood-borne bacterial infections, underscoring the role the spleen play in our immune response to pathogens that enter the circulation. It is also important to recognize that the spleen has other functions that will also compromise if it is removed. MALT organizes the response to antigen that enters mucosal tissues. Lymph nodes and the spleen are not the only organs that develop secondary lymphoid microenvironments. T and B cells zones and lymphoid follicles are also found in mucosal membranes that line the digestive, respiratory, and urogenital systems, as well as in the skin. Mucosal membranes have a combined surface area of about 400 meter square, nearly the size of a basketball court, and are the major sites of entry for most pathogens. These vulnerable membrane surfaces are defected by a group of organized lymphoid tissues known collectively as mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue. MALT, lymphoid tissue associated with different mucosal area, is sometimes given more specific name. For instance, the respiratory epithelium is referred to as bronchus-associated lymphoid tissue, BALT, nasal-associated lymphoid tissue, NALT, NALT, and the that associated with the intestinal epithelial is referred to as gut-associated lymphoid tissue, GALT. The structure of GALT is when described and ranges from loose, barely organized cluster of lymphoid cell in the laminar propria of intestinal villi to well-organized structures such as the tonsils and adenoids. The appendix and Pearce patches, which are found within the intestinal lining and contain well-described follicles and T cell zones, as was shown in Figure 2.11. Lymphoid cells are found in various regions within the lining of the intestine. The other, the outer mucosal epithelial layer contains intraepithelial lymphocytes, many of which are T cells. The lamina propria, which lies under the epithelial layer, contains a large number of B cells, plasma cells, activated T cells, and macrophages in loose clusters. Microscopy has revealed more than 50,000 lymphoid follicles within the intestinal lamina propria of a healthy child. Pairs patches nodules of 30 to 40 lymphoid follicles extend into the number layer muscle layers that are just below the lamina propria. Like lymphoid follicles in other sites, those that compose pairs patches can develop into secondary follicles with germinal centers. The overall functional importance of MALT in the bodies of defense is under scored by its large population of antibody-producing plasma cells whose number exceeds that of plasma cells in the spleen, lymph nodes, and bone marrow combined. Some cellular structures and activities are unique to MLT. For instance, the epithelial cell of mucosal membrane play an important role in delivering small samples of foreign antigen from the respiratory, digestive, and urogenital tract to the underlying mucosal-associated lymphoid tissue. In the digestive tract, specialized M cells support antigens across the epithelium. The structure of M cells is striking. They are flattened epithelial cell lacking the microvilli that characterize the rest of the mucosal epithelium. They have a deep investigation or pocket in the basolateral plasma membrane, which is filled with a cluster of B cells, T cells, and macrophages. Antigens in the intestinal lumen are endocytosed into vesicles that are transported from the luminal membrane to the underlying pocket membrane. The vesicles then fuse with the pocket membrane, delivering as antigens to cluster of lymphocytes and antigen presenting cells, the most important of which are the dendritic cells contained within the pocket. Antigen transported across the mucous membrane by M cells ultimately leads to the activation of B cells that differentiate and then secrete IgA. This class of antibody is concentrated in secretion milk and is an important tool used by the body to combat many types of infection at mucosal site. The skin is an innate immune barrier and also includes lymphoid tissue. The skin is the largest organ in the body and critical anatomic barrier against pathogens. It also plays an important role in non-specific references. The epidermal outer layer of the skin is composed largely of specialized epithelial cells called keratinocytes. These cells secrete a number of cytokines that may function to induce a local inflammatory reaction scattered among the epithelial cell matrix of the epidermis or Langer's cell. Skin resident dendritic cells that internalize is antigen by phagocytosis or endocytosis. These Langer's cell undergo maturation and migrate from the epidermis to regional lymph nodes where they function as potent activators of naive T cells. In addition to Langerhans cells, the epidermis also contains intraepithelial lymphocytes, which are predominantly T cells. Some immunologists believe that they play a role in combating infections that enter through the skin, a function for which they are well positioned. The underlying dermal layer of the skin also contains scattered lymphocytes, dendritic cells, monocytes, and macrophages, and may even include hematopoietic stem cells. Most skin lymphocytes appear to be either pro- previously activated cells or memory cells, many of which traffic to and from local draining lymph nodes that coordinate the responses to pathogens that have breached the skin barrier. Tertiary lymphoid tissue also organize and maintain an immune responses. The tissue that are the site of infection are referred to as tertiary lymphoid or tissue. Lymphocytes activate the antigen in secondary lymphoid tissue can return to these organs as effector cells and can also reside. These are memory cells. It also appears as if tertiary lymphoid tissues can generate defined microenvironment that organize the returning lymphoid cells. Investigators have recently found that the brain, for instance, establishes reticular systems that guide lymphocytes responding to chronic infection with the protozoan that cause a toxoplasmosis. These observations together highlight the remarkable adaptabilities of the immune system as well as the intimate relationship between anatomical structure and immune function. The conversation of structure-function relationships is also illustrated by the evolutionary relationship among immune system and organs. Thanks for listening.